Welcome again to Scott Phillips from Motley. Scott, good evening to you. Now, we just heard there about the shares in Zip plunging despite a 100% rise in profits. Can you please give us an idiot's guide on how does that happen?
Tomo, good evening. They say if you're an idiot's guide, ask an idiot apparently, but I'll do my best anyway, mate. The thing about Zip, of course, is this is all about expectations rather than results. We talk about earnings season normally in both February and August. We think it's about earnings, and it is, but it's all about what the market expected versus what the company delivered. And Zip's growth is slowing quarter on quarter. And in a market where these buy now, pay later stocks like Afterpay and others are priced effectively for perfection, any slight dent in that growth story is really going to hit the company's shares, and that's what happened to Zip today.
Tough market. Let's look at the top performers now. And they were the number one gainer last night, and Pilbara Minerals at the top of the list again, Scott.
Remarkable. I think it was 5.5% yesterday, another 10% today. There are plenty of Pilbara Minerals shareholders this evening. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. I'm not sure if you are, Tomo, but this is very much a story of a commodity that is really, running on sentiment right now. When the market loves it, a bit like buy now, pay later, the shares are going through the roof. When the market falls out of love, the shares fall through the floor. The company itself doing a pretty good job, and as you mentioned last night, one of the best stocks of 2021. But it really does come down to that sentiment. Investors right now are really happy about the Tesla story, the electric vehicle story, and that's helping the share price.
All right, talking about that, Chris mentioned it, BHP's deal with Tesla. How significant is that for the big Australian?
I'm going to be a little bit more sanguine here, Tom, I have to say. Tesla are going to buy nickel. We know that. They're going to buy it for whoever sells it. And frankly, if they bought someone else's nickel, BHP would simply provide the supplies for some other customer who wants that nickel anyway. So this is a PR coup for BHP, no doubt about it. The headlines are great. We're talking about it. The company gets to boast that it has Tesla on its customer list. That's worth a little bit, certainly going to make the headlines easier, as I said, but really not a big deal. The bigger story, I think, is the overall demand for nickel. And again, that electric vehicle story remains the key catalyst. While electric vehicle sales are growing, battery sales are growing. While they're going up, the nickel demand should as well.
All right, talking about commodities, the booming prices helped Australia to a record trade surplus last month.
These are amazing numbers, and we have to say, to the extent the economy might be going through a tough time right now, exports really are the bright spot. A $13.3 billion trade surplus last month, which is phenomenal. Get this, $20.5 billion worth of iron ore was exported from Australia, now making up more than half of the total exports from Australia to the world. We used to ride on the sheep's back. We're now riding on the iron ships as they go around, particularly to China. It does also remind us how significant that Chinese demand is. And when you think about the geopolitics right now, there's going to be a lot of attention paid to make sure we don't trip up on this one, because it really is a massive swing factor for the national economy.
OK. Now, the other numbers out today were on payrolls. No surprise to see a slight fall there.
Yeah, a bit of a fall, 1%. Look, again, as you said, no surprise. People out of work or not working as many hours. This is what payrolls measure. We used to look at the unemployment rate, which simply works out how many of us want a job and can't get one. Payrolls looks at how much money we're all earning. So it's a more direct indicator of how many hours we're working. In a case where the gig economy is really going through the roof right now, it's probably a better indicator of the employment around Australia. A slight fall, probably worse to come, unfortunately, before things get better, because since that data was released, more lockdowns, more restrictions are in place around much of the country.
Finally, how's Wall Street looking?
So it's been an interesting night on Wall Street. I'm just having a double check now because it's been all over the place. At the moment, up just under 0.25%. Earnings season really is whipsawing Wall Street around. We've said that already this week. Almost every night we've spoken, the market's been up or down. As Chris mentioned, our market hitting a record. If Wall Street can stay positive, hopefully another one for us tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
Fingers are crossed. Scott Phillips, thank you.